Good evening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is Overkill bringing you a review of the Oculus Rift S. Now, a lot of my comparisons will be to the Oculus Rift CV1, so keep that in mind as we're moving along, and I'll try to make references to the two as we go. I'm going to talk briefly about the construction and configuration, but I'm going to try to spend most of my time talking about the meat and potatoes that we're all interested in, which is the performance in DCS World and other games. Most of these relationships will be with DCS World, as that's why most of you are part of my channel, I would hope, given the fact that that's 98% of my content. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first thing is the construction. It's very well made. You wouldn't expect anything less from Oculus, really, especially with a $450 price tag sticking on it. No real concerns there. The cabling is secured very, very well. A really cool feature that I actually liked about it, and it's silly because it's really simple, is the cable on the side of the, or the cable hanger that's on the side of the HMD, or a side of the headband. You can move it from one side to the other. So for example, something that I was always struggling with was that my PC is on my right side, but the cable connects to the HMD on the left side. So I'd always have the cable coming across my back, and then it would fall down behind me and things of that nature. Well, what I was able to do with this one is you can actually move the hanger over to the right side. And so now the cable still connects at the same point, but then you wrap it around to the hanger on the right, and now the cable can never fall behind my back, so it makes it very comfortable like that. So cool perk on that little thing, but it's the little things that make us happy. As far as comfort goes, the headband I liked much better on the CV1. The problem with the Rift S is the headband is sort of just a circular band, as you can see here on the screen, and it's got the tensioner in the back. Now, what I don't like about it is, because of its construction, it limits your ability to really make it comfortable and conform to your head. Now, it's got paddings on all sides, but you're still going to have, based on the shape of your head, you're going to have higher tension in one location versus the other, and so that can get rather uncomfortable. Now, with that being said, it's not a game changer, or game breaker, I should say. I could still play 4, 5, 6 hours with it, without issue. So it's not that kind of detriment. It's just you will notice a comfort difference. Now, that's after playing on the Rift for 2.5, 3 years now, whatever long it's been. I think at least 2. So there's an adjustment period. I'm sure that's 90% of it. Speaking of more discomforts, the nose guard. Now, again, I'm Italian, so I naturally have a large nose. Yay! But where the sweet spot is for me, the nose guard tends to rub the bridge of my nose quite a bit. Now, I took the rubber nose guard that blocks out any external vision. So that little, for those of you who have the Rift CV1, you always had the little spot under the nose where you could sort of peek down at the keyboard if you needed to or whatever. There's a rubber piece there now that prevents that, but that rubber piece can be removed. I did remove that today and started testing around, and I could still feel the Rift sitting on my nose, but it wasn't as noticeable, so I do think that sort of helped to alleviate that. As far as the adjustment options, with the CV1, once you had the Oculus strapped down on your head, you had it where you wanted, you could actually tilt the HMD itself, the screen itself, up and down, for a little bit more further fine tuning. You do not have the ability here with the Rift S. It doesn't do that. So any vertical adjustment has to be done via the headband, which means it has to be done by readjusting the entire thing on your head. So now, that's pretty much all I've got for the negatives as far as comfort and functionality goes. And obviously the gigantic elephant in the room that is, I will say, 100% terrible, I do not like it, is the audio. The audio on it sucks, in my opinion. Now, opinions vary, to each their own, but for me, the best way to describe the way I hear it is, it would be as if you were wearing a ball cap, okay, and you were watching a movie, and the audio was coming out of your cell phone that is sitting on top of the brim of your hat. Okay, so yes, you can hear it coming from the front, but you lose all the bass, you lose any kind of surround sound, if you will. You know, there's no judgment of spatial location when it comes to where the audio is coming from. You know, it's great for chat. You know, you lose that privacy factor and the aspect that anyone else in the room can, you know, hear what you're talking about. So if that's something that's concerning, and the only reason, you know, I'm not saying that we're all having, you know, like completely inappropriate conversations, but for example, myself, you know, I have 3 children, 2 little ones, and one of them who is absolutely a dictaphone who will repeat everything that you say. So I have to be, you know, really cautious now with using that. Because she'll be able to hear anything that me and the guys are talking about, and we all know how we get when we're chit-chatting, right? So again, something to think about. Now, perk to that. I'm not gonna say it's a perk. I'm gonna say it's a resolution to that. Workaround is it does come with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. In the description below, I'll send you guys a link to a nice pair of Bose earbuds that I just got. Normally $100 on sale, 50% off, so kind of a bonus right now. Plug those in, problem solved. Sounds great, audio's great. You know, Bose puts out a very nice product. So at $50, now's a good time to jump on that if this is something that you think that you're going to want to do. I did try using a gaming headset. I have the Turtle Beach headset, and I also have my Thrustmaster Air Force Edition headset that I tried to use with the Rift, and it doesn't work. The headband on the Rift is so wide that in order to get the headband on your gaming headphones wide enough, it's discomfort mania. Okay, it just doesn't work. Again, another advantage I think of the CV1 having the elastic bands all the way around. So again, something else to think about there. Okay, moving into briefly on configuration. If you already have the Rift CV1, it's a walk in the park. Unplug your sensors, unplug the CV1, plug the Rift S in, launch the Oculus software. You'll have a few minutes of firmware updates depending on your performance, obviously. You know, if you have low network speed or low performing computer, obviously it may take a bit longer. But for me, from the time I plugged in and launched Oculus software to the point where I had the Rift S on and was configuring using the in-game or the onboard software crap, was about 3 to 5 minutes tops. Okay. Configuration of the software, short and sweet, just like the Rift S. You know, you set up your guard, you learn how to use the controllers, all that happy horse stuff, and then, you know, you're off to the races. So you even get to talk to the little robot dude again, like we did before. So be ready for that. Setting up the Guardian system, if that's something that you want to do, far better. The pass-through camera makes it just slicker than crap. And for those of you who don't know, pass-through camera means that there's an available option where even with the Oculus Rift on, you can see the outside world. You'll be able to see where your desk is, where your chair is. You know, if there's someone else in the room with them, you can actually see them on your camera. So that makes it pretty slick. Moving into the good stuff now. Let's talk about DCS World for a minute. So here are the settings that I'm currently running, and first we'll talk about maps. No matter which aircraft you're flying, hands down, no ands, if, or buts, you will get significantly better performance, anywhere from 10 all the way up to 30 frames per second increase on Caucasus versus the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf, you're going to take a major hit in performance. And that's to be expected. We know that the Persian Gulf still is relatively new in comparison. It doesn't have the optimization that the Caucasus has. Now, with the, hopefully, next week, let's cross our fingers. I know those guys at Eagle Dynamics are working their asses off to get this out to us. So hopefully with the VR optimization, that will change on both fronts, and we're going to see great improvement on both sides. But with that being said, in its current condition, the Persian Gulf, you're going to feel that pain of being in the Persian Gulf. I have tried everything from lowering shadows to turning everything completely off, turning textures down to the absolute lowest, turning pixel density down to 1.0, and I get virtually no performance change in the Persian Gulf, which lets me know it's a way that the map is being generated. Okay, it's got to do with the optimization of the map. Now, I do believe that the Persian Gulf also has higher resolution textures, which again, you're going to feel that pain. So that's something to think about as well. And when I say pain, I mean, here are the specs for my PC on the computer, or on the screen here. So it's not exactly a weak system. Um, and another thing to be keeping in considered, I run very little in the background. Okay, I don't have an antivirus. I don't have any kind of third-party applications I run in the background. I use RS Mapper and Voice Attack, but both of those are very lightweight and require almost no computer hardware performance, right? Um, and I do IT for a living, so I can tell you that, I keep her very clean. So keep these numbers in mind that this is running off a fairly clean system. Um, with that being said, um, the F-14 takes the biggest hit. I mean, on the Persian Gulf, I will get high 20s, mid 30s while on deck. Let me rephrase that, while on the ground, not on deck. My testing that I did was out of Sharjah International. Now, the map that I used was also extremely heavily populated, okay? And yes, I use extremely and heavily for a reason. There is crap going on everywhere. There's AI in the air, there's ground forces all over the place, there's SAMs, there's radars, there's boats, there's helicopters, there's ground troops, there's everything on this map, okay? I made sure it was a really high intense map. The other side to that is that this was all ran locally. So the same machine that's processing my VR is also processing the map. Okay, so another thing to think about. Okay, this was single player. I did not test multiplayer performance, but I would imagine that you're not going to see a significant change between multiplayer and single player. And if you are, it's more likely more network than video. Okay. So F-14 going to have a bigger punch. It's also rendering 2 cockpits at the same time, and you are also it's got higher resolution textures. Okay, if memory serves, the F-14 is running 4K textures. All right. So again, going to be a bigger impact. Let's see here. What else? Let's get moving here. F-18 Hornet, A-10 Charlie, F-15, and the Harrier. The Harrier I actually got the best performance out of. Definitely got the best frame rates from the Harrier. So good, go Razbem on that one. But again, I anticipate all of these are going to be changing dramatically once we get that update, which sounds like is right around the corner. So don't let these frame rates that I'm talking about scare you off. Okay. Wags was talking about a 50% increase. Okay, so if you're rocking 40 frames per second, you can be expecting error from the high 50s to 60 frames per second or more, depending on what this improvement really brings to the table. So if you're running 30, you're going to be looking at 45. So you're above that that minimum range. At 40 frames per second, it's not as crisp as 80, that everyone's looking for, but keep your expectations realistically. 40 frames per second is definitely playable. It's not something that's going to make you sick. It's not something that you're going to constantly be noticing stuttering. You may see a little shake here and there when a major graphical change happens, but other than that, it's absolutely playable, at least for myself. Okay. Now, getting into the awesome parts of Oculus Rift S versus the Oculus Rift CV1. In-cockpit resolution significantly improved. Okay, people were talking about how the screen door effect was only kind of improved. It wasn't a huge improvement. In cockpit, I'm going to call BS. I think that looking at the steam gauges and labeling and switches and MFDs and MPCDs and targeting pods, massive improvement. Everything on the MFDs and the Hornet are crisp and clear and clean, very easy to read, very comfortable to read. I don't find myself leaning in anymore like I used to with the Rift S, lean in a little bit just to try to get that little bit of clarity. Don't have to do that anymore. I mean, it's inside the cockpit, it's almost monitor quality. I would say it's approaching a nice clean 1080p quality. They've really done a fantastic job up close. With that being said, I'm going to say that externally, so looking out the window, it depends on what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to say that the people who are going to benefit the most from upgrading to the Rift S are going to be your ground pounders. Anyone who prefers air to ground over air to air. Air to ground with clear visibility, up at anywhere from between 9 and up to 12,000 feet, I was able to visually acquire targets on ground without the use of VR. Now without the use of VR zoom, excuse me. Now I would still use the zoom, find myself using the zoom to, identify and really confirm that there's actually something there that I wanted to know about. But I was comfortable spotting targets. Now, I will admit that my spotting of targets was done on the Persian Gulf. So you have that brown sand background with the black target sitting on it, so it makes it a little bit easier to identify. But where the Rift up at 12,000 feet, you didn't always know if you were looking at a tree, a bush, or a truck. Okay, where I found with the Rift S, I can. Okay, I can distinguish what I'm looking at. Something I should have tested and didn't. I did not test in the Caucasus map. With that green forest background and that terrain. I didn't really test it. I mean, I did a little bit of target practice, but it's on that runway that's over there near Sochi. That's got the X. Okay, so my targets were if you can't hit a target that's sitting on a freaking runway, we got problems, right? I don't think Rift is your issue. Now, staying on the visibility for a second, people who wear glasses, you will love the Rift S. When you put the Rift S on your head, okay, you attach the headband, you get it comfortable to where you want it. There's a button underneath it that you can set your IPD with, basically. You can pull it, or not your IPD, excuse me, your distance between the lenses in your eyes. IPD was wrong, sorry. But you can push a button and pull the headset away from your eyes. Okay, so it makes it real nice. So what I do, I wear glasses. I'm nearsighted, so I have a little bit trouble seeing far away. It's a really low prescription, so I'm not going to say it makes it like night and day for me. But I know some people who absolutely need to have glasses. Okay, so I will set the headband. Okay, I'll put it on my head. I'll pull the HMD away from my face using this button that's underneath it, and it slides away a good, I would say at least an inch. Definitely enough to where you can get the clearance for your glasses. Put your glasses on, get them situated, and then bring that headset, push that button, and start bringing the headset back in to your face until it's at a comfortable point. Now, people who have large lenses, like the ones that go, cheekbone up above your eyebrow kind of thing, you'll probably still have to be a little bit further away as far as your viewpoint, your distance from eyes to lenses in the Oculus, but still usable. I mean, the Oculus activates. It doesn't have to be right on your face in order for it to turn on. So you'll be able to see. You might get a little bit more of that tunnel effect because you'll be able to see the sides of the Oculus, right? People with smaller lens frames, that or maybe just literally outline kind of the area of your eyes, like I have. I put my glasses on, I can bring the headset all the way back to my face again. And so it goes right around my lenses without issue. So real smooth, real sweet. It doesn't pinch on your glasses. It doesn't pinch on the armbands for your glasses. If you need to adjust your glasses, literally you just, again, push that button, pull the Oculus away from your face, adjust them, push that button, bring it back. So real slick, real cool in that aspect for those who wear glasses. Air-to-air combat. I'm going to say in a merged fight, it's easier to identify what the target is. Okay, where before, 1 to 5 miles, you knew something was there. Even with the Rift CV1, where now you can identify that's an F5, that's an F4, that's a MiG, whatever it may be. Okay, so that part's cool. But I don't feel personally that the distance of acquisition has changed. Okay, you're still 1 to maybe 8 miles, and that's probably pushing it, where you actually visually acquire, yes, that is a plane coming at me. Okay, and then depending on what's behind them, clouds, ocean water, things like that, large building terrain, you may lose them in the terrain still. So I'm not going to say that air-to-air has improved dramatically. I don't feel like it has. Ball capture on deck. I would say it's 25% increase, maybe. It's still pretty fuzzy. The ball still gets sort of buried in everything else. It is better. I'm not going to say it's not better, but it's nothing that's like, yeah, nailed it. There's the ball right there. Got it. Followed all the way down. No, you're not going to be like that. It's not that improved. Now, with that being said, as you get closer, it absolutely is, but, once you're in that close, you're pretty much stuck with what you got. So, it all depends on where your priorities are. And that's why I said that I think air-to-ground performers are going to get the most benefit out of it. It is easier to acquire targets on the ground. It is a hell of a lot easier, as I said, looking at your MFDs, looking at your MPCDs, looking through your Maverick and TGP scopes. So, anything inside the cockpit, you're going to absolutely love. Speaking to the F-14 again for a second and the cockpit comparison. There's a gentleman who did a fantastic job creating a mod for VR users for the F-14 Tomcat, because all of your steam gauges and labels and everything were really hard to read in VR. Looking at your speedometer and things of that nature, it was hard to see them. Your radar altimeter was another bad one. So he made a mod, and I used to use that mod, to make everything legible, and it was great. The first thing I did when I got the Rift S is jumped into the Tomcat after disabling that mod, and I can see everything clear as day. So, score on that one as well. The other thing that I don't know if anyone else caught on this with the CV1 was at night, if you turned the cockpit lights on, your instrument lights, etc., the labeling almost disappeared. It was everything just sort of blurred into this red color. At least for me, where the Rift S, when you turn the cockpit lights on, things like that, everything stays nice, clean, and crisp. So, again, stressing it, the improvement that you're really going to feel is inside the cockpit. Okay, so keep that in mind. Who should buy this, in my opinion? So, at $450 walking out the door at Best Buy the other night, here's who I believe should buy this. If you are someone who just has to have the latest and greatest and best, absolutely buy it. You'll love it. If you are someone who is new to VR and you have the option of either picking up the CV1 for $350 or picking up the Rift S for $399, and like I said, it's $450 or so after tax, depending on where you live. I would say get the Rift S. Okay, if you got nothing to compare it to, if you don't have any, anything to piss and moan about as far as I really shouldn't have bought it. It's not that much better than the CV1. If you got nothing to compare it to, get the Rift S. You'll love it. People who I don't think should pick this up, and it's just my humble opinion. If you are someone who has to save your money for a long time, you've been saving for months and months, you've been waiting for this. And this is the one that you want to get, but you're doing it for an upgrade. Okay, you're upgrading you currently have the CV1. You don't have a ton of money on hand all the time. I would say probably don't get it, and that's just because even myself, and not trying to toot any horns, but it wasn't some big break of the bank for me to go out and get the Rift S. But even for me, and with all the perks and things that I have noticed, I would not say it was a $450 upgrade. Okay, I think knowing what I know now, I probably would have held off and just stuck with the Pimax, which, by the way, keep an eye out for that, because I did order the Pimax. It'll be here, should be here in the next couple of days. However, I will be, out of town coming up pretty quick. God, I can't talk. But that will be coming eventually. So if you're tight on money, if it doesn't grow on trees for you or any kind of thing like that, or you're the type of person who spends 6 days, debating with yourself and arguing with yourself before you're willing to spend $100 on yourself, and you already have a VR solution, I would say do not pick up the Rift S. It won't be, the cost to benefit won't be there. Okay, you're going to find yourself going, yeah, this is nice, but I don't know that it was $450 nice. Okay, gosh, I really could have used that on something else. Okay, you're going to find yourself doing that. Okay, so That's my best feedback that I can give you, as a family man, as someone who, has been there. I've climbed up through the bottom of crap. I started out, as that person who was living paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure to throw that out so that way people don't have to go through that, feeling if you're in that particular situation. If you're in that situation where you're on paycheck to paycheck and you already have some sort of VR solution, do not get the Rift S. Okay, keep saving, and we'll see what the Pimax has to bring here pretty quick. That's just a recommendation. I really can't think of anything else that I need to go over with you guys. We pretty much covered all the bases here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment field below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Please pound that bell so that way you guys catch notifications of future content to come. There will be quite a lot of it. Shortly after this, you'll see the second of the button box videos where I go over a little bit more detail on how the construction works and the different options you have. We did something a little bit different with this next one where we created our own universal CDU, if you will. Got a nice 10 keypad, some rotaries, things like that, using another option that's available on YouTube, which we'll go over soon, so keep an eye out for that. And then also we will be getting back on track with completing the training for the F-14 Tomcat. So stay tuned. There's a hell of a lot coming over the next few days before I go on vacation. So we'll see you guys soon. Take care.